Hi guys, this is Mr. Kennedy. Welcome to your Chapter 1 lecture notes on environmental issues. Since this is your first chapter of lecture notes, I just want to touch on a couple of really quick things to remind you that I will be pre-recording these notes and then post them on our YouTube channel. That way you can kind of go back and forth and make sure that you've got everything that you want in your notebook from these notes and that you have something to study for your tests. You can pause and play as much as you want to make sure that you get it all. Second thing I want to stress for you is that your job as you're taking notes is to not to be a dictation machine. So please do not try to copy everything on every slide word for word. At the end of the day, I want you to learn, and I don't want you to be a dictation machine, okay? So with that, we're going to dive into environmental science, and we're going to start just by trying to get an appreciation for what environmental science is. Environmental science is not the kind of science where we are simply studying one thing, like biology studies life or chemistry studies atoms and their behavior. You can see from this pie chart that environmental science studies a broad area and a whole bunch of different areas of science. So we're into biology, yes, chemistry, yes, physics, not on the list, but physics, political science, sociology, urban planning. I mean, the sky's kind of the limit. Now, I don't want that to scare you. I don't want that to put you off. The way we use all these areas of science is actually kind of fun. We get to look at problems that society is dealing with, the science associated with the problem, and then try to come up with realistic fixes for those problems, which is, like I said, what makes it fun, okay? So just to give you an idea of where we are background-wise with our current state of affairs. There are about 7 billion people that we share this little third rock from the sun with. And those 7 billion people all have the same wants, needs, and desires as you and I. They want clean water. They want food in their belly. They want a home. They want cars. They want to be able to drive and go places. And as a result of this kind of global desire for a certain standard of living, we're dealing with some issues that environmental science is going to cover throughout the course of the year. One issue in particular is climate change. Because of the desire for cars and industry and all of that, we're burning fossil fuels that causes global climate change. We're burning fossil fuels literally at an alarming rate. Even though there's lip service given to, burning fossil fuels is bad, change is hard and change is slow. So we're still emitting literally tons of carbon dioxide, amongst other things, into the atmosphere on a daily basis, putting more CO2 in the atmosphere faster than plants can take it out. Hunger is an issue, right? Even in Fresno County, globally, food is inequitably distributed across the globe. About 2/3 of our agricultural lands show signs of degradation, which means that they cannot produce the same amount of food that they once produced. As our population gets bigger, those agricultural lands are squeezed and replaced by homes and mini malls and stuff like that. So now there's less agricultural lands to grow food on, even though there's more people, right? That in and of itself should put some warning bells or alarm bells going off in your head. It just doesn't make sense to do that, but that's what we're doing. Clean water is an issue. The majority of the people on our planet, and I don't have the statistic off the top of my head, but the majority of the people on our planet do not have ready access to clean water on a daily basis. That's something we take for granted. We go to the sink, we turn on the faucet, the water comes out, and it's clean. There are people in Africa that literally have to walk 8 hours a day just to get water, right? And the water they get, you would probably look at it and go, I'm not drinking that. Because it's not the clean water, clear water that comes out of our faucets here in the United States. Access to water may be the most critical resource issue in the 21st century. Energy is a big deal. Like I said, we're using fossil fuels, which cause pollution problems. Many countries are working very hard to shift to more renewable energy resources, but I'll be honest with you, we're just not there yet. As a result of the pressures that we are putting on the planet, we're also losing biodiversity at an alarming rate. Loss of biodiversity might not be something that you see on a day-to-day basis outside of your window, but we are losing upwards of 8 species a year. And while you may not necessarily care if, or be affected if, let's say, there are no more burrowing owls or kangaroo rats, I want you to think about biodiversity this way. It's kind of like playing the game Jenga. As you play the game Jenga and you pull blocks out, that tower gets more and more flimsy, and eventually that tower will fall. Now imagine playing that game Jenga in the dark, where you can't see which block you're pulling out, and you don't know the impact of pulling that block out until after you've already pulled it out. That's the game we're playing with biodiversity. Okay, we're pulling blocks out of this tower, and we have no clue if that block we just pulled out or that species we just lost might be the one that causes the entire tower to fall until we hear a noise, and then we scramble on trying to fix it. Right? Air pollution has continued to worsen in many areas as a result of fossil fuels, agricultural lands, and plants being wiped out. So these are things that environmental science is going to deal with and that we're going to study over the course of the year together. Okay. So what's the class all about? If I tried to sum it up in one word, it would be environment. You are going to learn about the importance of our natural resources. We're going to learn about how science is interrelated and all of that, the scientific method and how it operates, and the pressures that we're facing that within our global environment, so that we can have a better understanding of how to live with, as opposed to just conquer the life that is on this little third rock from the sun that you see here in this picture. The term environment, if you just look it up in the dictionary, the term environment literally refers to the place in which you live. And there's a couple of aspects in perspective that I want you to have when you think about the word environment. The first one is, yes, that third rock from the sun, that little blue marble that we get to share the planet with in terms of all life, all animals, and all of that on. But that can sometimes be very daunting for kids when they think about, gosh, pollution on a global scale. I can't fix pollution on a global scale. I mean, I'm just me here in Fresno. I can't tell a country like China to stop burning coal and have them listen to me. So that in and of itself can kind of build in some learned helplessness when it comes to environmental science. And I would agree with you. You can't, as an individual sitting in your living room, pick up a phone and call China and say, hey, stop burning coal, and have China go, okay, I'm going to stop burning coal. But what we can do is we can have a very powerful impact on our environment, which is a local view of where we live. Right. And hopefully that will carry over in a domino effect where many more families will then buy in. And then as families buy in, cities buy in. And then as cities, maybe states, and the domino effect expands from there. So I don't want you to be intimidated by thinking about everything on a global scale. Start small and work your way out. Your environment can be considered the place where you live physically, like your home, your community, Fresno, the Fresno County, the state of California, the whole country, out to the world. But no matter how you look at it, we've got to consider living things, non-living things, the things that people put in that environment, buildings, human created centers, and then the social relationships and institutions that exist there. Okay. Now, as I said a while ago, it's important that humans learn to exist within their environment, and that they learn that they are a part of nature, as opposed to just conquering the environment all the time. We've got to coexist, not conquer. Our survivability, our survival or future, depends on a healthy, functioning planet, because, folks, I don't know if you realize this or not, there's nowhere else you can go and have the same quality of life that you have here on Earth in our entire solar system. You can't go live on the moon. You can't go live on Mars, right? It's just not a possibility right now. So that tells me we should probably work very hard to take care of our planet, our natural world, and hope that the decisions we make now create a positive place, not just for us now, but for all of the future generations on this planet, your kids' kids, and so on. The unfortunate thing, as one generation passes on to the next is that we often inherit the mistakes of our forefathers. So let's make as few mistakes as possible so we don't pass those on to our kids. Okay. If we can learn that survivability, that sustainability in our way of life, at the end of the day, it promises enriched, longer lives, increased wealth, health, mobility, more leisure time, pollution, erosion, species extinctions. All of those things will decrease, right? We're directly dependent upon this planet for our food, our water, our way of life, any wealth, whether it be monetary or other physical things. We're directly dependent on the planet for that. So if we trash the planet, then we're taking those things away, not only from this generation, but also future generations. And we're doing it through the production of pollution, the causation of erosion and species extinction, right? Those things are going to degrade the environment and ultimately not leave something positive for this generation or future generations to use or enjoy. Okay. So from here, we're going to dive into natural resources and then some other aspects of environmental science. So that I'm not talking at you for so long, I'm going to stop this video here and encourage you to pick up chapter 1, part 2, after you've had a chance to just sort of digest a little bit of this. Okay. So I'll see you in part 2.